So I guess we're still doing the Oscars this year because nothing screams annual tradition we absolutely cannot skip even during the home stretch of a viral pandemic than an opportunity to watch awards for a handful of movies even fewer people watch than usual be given to and by rich people who this year will likely have the opportunity to do so via Zoom and thus not even provide the ironic spectacle of showing up in kitschy designer gowns and professional makeup to make 200 versions of the same tired-ass joke about how they also hated being home in pajamas all goddamn year. Hell, they can't even really remind us to go see their new upcoming movies because it's still the same upcoming movies they were promoting last year. Anyway, it was at least momentarily, a few months ago anyway, presumed that maybe this year's show would at least turn out to be an opportunity for more interesting selections than usual since so many major films had opted to wait out the lack of theater space, so maybe the Academy would be forced to continue the slow trend of reckoning with its own historic shortcomings and broaden both it and the viewing public's cultural palate. And I don't think that's a stupid or unfounded hope on people's parts. Ratings or not, the concept of the Oscars still has substantial cultural cachet, whether or not it's 100% taken seriously or not. I can't count the number of quote-unquote regular people in my life and general goings, people who aren't super active in film culture on social media, don't follow the film scene, etc., who told me after Parasite had the surprise Best Picture win with different versions of, yeah, you know, I hadn't really heard of that, and I don't usually watch movies from Korea, but I figured, okay, let's see what this is, and man, that was pretty cool. So these things can have a positive purpose, but not this year. The Academy opted to go gaga for Mank, a movie that feels like the Oscar bait version of those algorithmically generated clickbait animations on YouTube where reskinned Disney models sing Baby Shark or whatever, you know, like Netflix told the master computer, we want to win Best Picture, give us something precision engineered to make the Screen Actors Guild retirees who are only awake 4 hours a day jerk off in their walk-in tubs and somewhere a Bitcoin mining shed spit out a flash drive with Mank on it. That's not to say I think it's still the favorite to win. Best Picture is a crowded field, and I think the momentum is probably still with Nomadland a little bit, but maybe not enough for it to win either. We'll circle back to that, especially since the star when it comes to Mank, with rhetorical acknowledgement of the existence of Gary Oldman, in awards terms is David Fincher, who's currently in the Scorsese seat reserved for great filmmakers that should have won a bunch of times before and is due for a consolation we're very sorry win, ahead of his move over into the brand new other Scorsese seat, the one where you sit comfortably and watch with awkward bemusement as someone makes $1 billion turning a shallow pastiche of one of your best movies into a pointlessly grimy and overwrought Batman reboot. That's probably not great news for Nomadland's Chloe Zhao, who's been racking up notices otherwise, but he may have to settle for the historical noteworthiness of joining Emerald Fennell as the first two women to have ever been nominated for Best Director in the same year. Thankfully, even though she's apparently completed work on The Eternals, that film hasn't come out or really started being promoted yet, so we'll probably be spared a tiresome, extremely online culture war pitting her and Fincher in atavistic confrontation via their respective statures as a film school bro patron saint versus a woman of color who just made a Marvel movie. Speaking of which, over in Best Actor, there was a general consensus among the punditry that if the Academy chickened out and snubbed Delroy Lindo for Da 5 Bloods, which they did, and which I'm honestly tempted to say invalidates the category if not the whole show, because what the fuck was that if not the best performance anyone gave this year, they were going to posthumously nominate and award it to the late Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. A good movie that he's excellent in, but also as in everyone agrees you would have gotten a bunch of these had you not died this year, what a horrible loss acknowledgement, and also a bit of attempted karma soothing for the fact that not only Boseman himself, but the already cemented pop culture immortality of Black Panther has affixed a stigma of we probably should have awarded both of these and we didn't to the institution for decades to come now. I mean, look, however you feel about the way that year shook out, let's be real about it. The Academy probably could have lived with and maybe even already accepted people were going to drag them over Green Book winning, and the fact that that was just going to be one of the punchlines forever, but that Boseman glancing back at the cameras as though to say, yeah, I see it too, guys, becoming the thing people remember from that night, and then he dies young. I mean, if you were the Academy, you'd be afraid of ghosts right now, too. Best Actress, likewise, is probably Carey Mulligan's to lose for Promising Young Woman. She's due, the film was well reviewed, the director is nominated, etc. Frances McDormand for Nomadland, also possible, but she's won before, once pretty recently, and while she's great, in this, she's also a victim of that very greatness. Everyone knows Frances McDormand can play the hell out of hard-bitten, dispossessed rural women. Supporting actor is one of the only spots that feels like a real race, save for the fact that both actors from Judas and the Black Messiah will split each other's votes. It could well end up being Paul Raci from Sound of Metal even, which would really be something if so. As far as supporting actress goes, my ultimate hope, is that they don't give it to Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy. She's not that good in the role, I know she's due, but not for this garbage, and if you want a portrait of how bad a year 2020 was about everything, it actually compelled the Razzies to not be a complete waste of time for the first time in forever by making a statement and nominating her for Worst Supporting Actress in the same performance. Now, on the other hand, big propers to the Academy for doing the right thing and recognizing that Maria Bakalova deserved to be nominated for Borat 2. She was the heart of that movie, the reason it actually works better than the original, and she may have helped save the country, so yeah, I would be more than okay with her winning this. Will Close still win it, though? I honestly don't know. She's not good in the part, it's a lousy part in a fucking god-awful movie, which, in case somebody had asked, would still have been goddamn awful, even if the author and main character wasn't a scumbag who goes on Tucker Carlson all the time and now wants to be a politician. Great. But everyone basically agrees that Glenn Close was robbed back when she should have won for Fatal Attraction and should have won since then, and this is the ideal of a we owe you one Oscar part in as much as it involves a glamorous person dressing down, putting on some makeup, and flailing around with a weird accent nobody actually has. So the only way I'd hope she wins it is if she also gets the Razzie, which turns the entire Hillbilly Elegy enterprise into a big joke that'll haunt J.D. Vance and his piece of shit movie and book for a while, but please, seriously, give this to Maria Bakalova. Now, I'm not going to do everything else, but for Best Animated at least, I'd like to think Wolfwalkers can pull it out, but I really think it's going to be Soul, and honestly, that's fine. Soul's a very good movie, and I think what's making a lot of the difference for it in terms of its award season strength has been the unexpected strong cachet of goodwill Jean-Baptiste has with older boomer awards voting demographics because he's on Stephen Colbert. I'm also just glad to see Glenn Keane in there with Over the Moon, which I thought was adorable. Good for him. The two screenplay wins, I think, are going to go to Chloe Zhao for Nomadland and Aaron Sorkin for Trial of Chicago 7, respectively, in part as pickup wins for Fincher almost definitely getting Best Director and Sorkin not even having been nominated there to compete, though I'm fine with that. I thought Chicago 7 was extremely lackluster. However, to circle back to Best Picture and close this out, if I was playing the odds, that's where I'd put my money in a betting pool if I wanted to take a shot at a higher risk payout to win. Here's why. Unlike the other categories at the Oscars, Best Picture uses what's called a preferential ballot or ranked choice voting, which means instead of just naming your favorite, everyone ranks the whole list from most to least preferred winner, and then they count up the most to least data as a point system, and through process of elimination determine which nominee had the most high preference points by selection to arrive at a consensus choice. Now that sounds more complicated than it actually is, but what it comes down to is that while it won't make a difference in a year where there's like one overwhelming famous favorite that just steamrolls everything like a Schindler's List or a Return of the King, in situations where there isn't a clear favorite, so there's disagreement and everybody's number 1 and 2 spots, and thus a divisive, possibly not even majority favored nominee could win a straight count vote simply by all the others splitting their numbers just enough, a preferential ballot system typically eliminates the widely varied top and bottom choices. You know, the ones that were either I hated it or I loved it, while boosting the profile choices closer to the center that tend to have a more general agreement. The, oh yeah, that was pretty good, not my number 1, but definitely not the bottom, those movies. And while I can't exactly say I cared for it in Oscar voter terms, Chicago 7 is exactly that kind of movie. It's not terrible, it has all the signifiers in terms of tone and aesthetic of what a classical historical pick is supposed to look and feel like, so if you even kinda half-watched it, it probably feels like, yeah, that seemed good, right? In your memory. Many people did actually like it, and even if they didn't, there were lots of good, well-liked actors in it, doing a pretty good job with what they had. It has positive, socially and topically relevant political stuff to say, and on that specific note, yeah, it's Aaron the West Wing Sorkin presenting print-the-legend mythological versions of boilerplate 60s youth-driven political activism as the most important thing that ever happened, and that's pretty much the only stuff that the Academy's otherwise bitterly divided, cranky aging baby boomer voting bloc and performatively woke late millennial voting bloc both get equally hard for. Like the old guy who looks at Promising Young Woman and goes, nope, I'm out, this frightens me, and the younger person who looks at Mank like, this would be the whitest shit I'd ever seen even if they didn't shoot it in monochrome, can both prospectively look at this one and go, ooh, Borat playing Abby Hoffman and doing President Bartlett speeches to a bad guy judge who's clearly a Trump analog. Yeah, that's the stuff. And yeah, anyway, those are my Oscar takes. I've got reviews up already on the channel for some of those, aiming to get more up as they're completed, but you wanted to hear these? Here they are. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got an upcoming TV show's first episode to review. Stay tuned. I'm Bob, and that's The Big Picture.